Good morning, YouTube. Wanted to go over something that I've seen lately, and it's the lack of quality handguns on some places. And how I mean is you see a lot of, you go to gun shows. I'm actually going to one tomorrow. It's the first gun show I've been to in a couple of years. I really don't go to them that much. Up here we don't have that many. And the lack of good quality handguns versus the lack of junkers. And what I mean by junkers, I don't want to necessarily say they won't work. They will do the job. But you see a lot of surplus handguns out there. And that's great if you want to buy them as a collector. If you want to buy a couple of these, older guns, hey, great collector's items, whatever. But you see some people passing them off as carry guns. And they're not a carry gun. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why they're not. Most of them will not cycle a hollow point. Some will. Some of the more, the better guns will cycle a hollow point. But for the most part, you're shooting full metal jacket through it. The other thing is, unless it's a 45 government model, or the occasional 9mm, most of them are an inferior round. With the exception of maybe 9mm Makarov, which is, it's a 380. But the problem is a 380 ACP, you can get better quality ammo, you can get better variety ammo, unless you handload the Makarov. The only 9mm Makarov I would personally buy myself as a carry gun would be the Polish P64, and that's only after I put a spring kit in it. Because they've got a horrendous trigger pull. That double action trigger pull is awful. It's 20 pounds. You can lighten it up, but I mean, I would factor that spring kit, which is not much, like $10, $15. I'd factor that into the cost. But I recently saw a 32 ACP for sale. It was a Beretta, and the guy was saying that'd be a great carry gun. I looked the gun over. It was cheap. It was $200. Looked the gun over. It'd been reblued. Not a big deal, but between the way the safety worked and the way the action worked and everything, and the fact that the safety was very hard to manipulate, and you did not want to carry this gun without that safety on, the way that gun was set up. And I told him, I said, you'd have to use two hands to get to the safety, and then of course the magazine is mostly heel type. That's not a big drawback if you're used to it, but again. But one, it was a lousy caliber. 32 ACP is not a good defense caliber. It's not that it wouldn't work, but there's better out there in the same size. There are better guns out there in the same size or smaller with a better caliber. Again, if you want to collect 32 ACP, be my guest. But let's not make it into something it's not. The same goes for some of these commie block guns. These people trying to go out and buy a Nagant rifle, and then they complain because it doesn't shoot 1-inch groups. A Nagant rifle is exactly what it is. It's a simple action designed for peasants that worked when you fired it. And it does work. It's spectacular. It did its job. It's not a excrement hitting the fan gun, in my opinion, unless you get the M44. If you get the shorter gun, you're a little better off. It's not bad. I wouldn't get the long gun and say this is a great gun for survival. It's not. There's better out there. Again, I'd get the shorter version. Some of these commie block guns, these com block guns, some of the handguns are atrocious. The Nagant revolver. If you're going to use it single action, great. The ammo, overly expensive for what it is. It's ballistically a little better than 32 ACP. Wow, you're spending a ridiculous amount of box of ammo for, you can get a 9mm, and you can buy a lot more bullets for what you can get in that box of Nagant revolver rounds. There's one. Some of these guns are so atrocious, and not just the combat guns. Some of the French guns, I've seen a couple of French handguns, disastrous. They're disastrous. They're an odd caliber. It's a weak caliber. The ballistics suck. I have no idea why the French picked it, other than maybe they wanted the Germans to get it after they surrendered, so they'd have an inferior handgun. And there's a lot of like, well, you know, the Germans copied these guns. Yeah, spectacular. The Germans copied everything. The Germans were not stupid. They took Czech guns. You'll see CZ pistols with German markings. It's not unusual. The Germans were smart enough not to throw stuff away. Did they really care to use that crap? Not really. But it was in the same caliber as some of theirs. 32 ACP was their Walthers. They had that caliber. Recently, I came across a 25 ACP pistol, and I'm debating buying it because it's a collector's gun. The guy wants a ridiculously cheap amount of money for a gun that I've seen $400 or $500. He wants $200 for it. Would I carry it as a serious carry gun? God, no. No. I mean, once in a great while, if I'm going somewhere and I just want to drop something in the pocket, it's a hot summer day, and I've got shorts on, and I don't want to bring out the bigger pistols like the Beretta or the Smith & Wesson. Yeah, I'd probably, if I was just going down the store, probably I'd throw that in my pocket. But as a serious everyday carry gun, no. But it's this mentality that people pick up these guns because they're cheap, they're junkers, and I do, 38 Smith & Wesson revolvers. What a horrible round. I did an article on that for Gun Digest. I couldn't get it to really do anything. It was a horrible round. Teddy Roosevelt was shot with one. He stood there and gave a speech afterwards. He gave a speech after being shot. That tells you what that round is like. It's a horrible little round. Would it kill you? Yeah, probably. Is there better out there for the money? Absolutely. And what you see them in are these little junker Ivor Johnsons. You see them, and for their time, they were good. They were adequate. But that was their time. What I'm basically saying is you get these little handguns out there, and you get people that advocate using them, and they're doing a horrendous disservice by standing there and telling you that this gun was used by whoever, whatever army, whatever police department. Great. They used it, but they moved on to something better. And the other thing is to sit there and say, I would carry this gun. Phenomenal, but don't tell other people to do it. You're just going to get your ass shot off. Or the gun's going to misfire. The gun's going to jam. You're going to have lousy ammo, surplus ammo, corrosive ammo. The gun's not going to work when you need it to. It could fall out. Some of these older guns, these older surplus guns, they don't have the safety equipment in them. Fall out of your pocket. Bam! Hits the ground. It could very well happen. It has happened. I've seen people do it. So don't tell other people, oh, go out and get one of these because they're $200, they're really cheap, and it makes a great carry gun. No, it doesn't. It did once. At the time when there was nothing better. There's better now. So go out and use one of those. When you can go out and get a Ruger LCP or an LC9, a Beretta Nano, a Pico, so many, again, a Polish P64 would be probably the only surplus handgun I would carry for concealed carry, and that'd be it. Because it's a small gun, and it's in a somewhat decent caliber, but only if I could get hollow points to work in it. If all I'm going to be shooting is ball ammo, it's not going to be a carry gun for me, because it's not that great. Will it work? Yeah, you'll put holes in somebody, but not when there's better out there. There's better guns. There's better things to use. So my advice is keep the commie block guns. Keep the surplus guns where they belong. In your collection. In a safe. Not as a carry gun. Don't pretend to be James Bond. I'm going to go out and pretend to be James Bond. You're not. You're not James Bond. James Bond is a fictional character. Just go out and get a decent gun, practice with it in a reliable caliber that you can get consistently. You can go to the store, look it, there's what I shoot. I can buy it today. Instead of, oh, they don't have it. Oh, this shop doesn't have it. Oh, no, this shop's never heard of that caliber. Stuff like that. Don't go bother with that. So, that's my little thing on that today, YouTube. Everybody have a nice day. and we'll see how things go for the warmer weather. If it isn't raining anymore like it is today, so I can get out there and I can start showing off more of guns like this Nano, a good reliable handgun. Talk to you later, folks.